Nice start.
That's a good intro there. Right then, we're back again. The Hodling Room. We are on episode 14 or 15, something like that.
Yeah, I lost track at about 4, so
Yeah.
could
We're in
be.
the T.
I'll
Yeah,
believe
we're
it.
in. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, how we doing, Mike?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm doing all right. Yep. How's your polemical video gone down on the Knots core?
Oh, that's a big
thing.
word. Polemical.
Divisive.
God, yeah. No, it's by far the hardest video to make, but I just still haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything from a cause perspective that's like comes from a normie, So I was like, I just feel like I have to do something. I've seen people try and be unbiased, but it all like when you do that, it just always filters back to Knots. So I was like, I'm just going to just make this solely from the cause point of view to hopefully try and give them a voice from a normal perspective. And no matter how many times you're saying, it's like, I'm not picking a side. I'm being unbiased. I'm not saying this is right or this is wrong or anything. I'm just trying to show you cause side. The amount of people like, oh, you've been like infiltrated and like
He's a fed.
You must be one of them.
You've been compromised.
You've been compromised. It's like
He's on the list.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many times you say it. People just hear whatever they want to hear. But yeah, I mean, I'm still undecided, like which one I would like really prefer. But I think the bottom line is, I don't think it matters. I think running a node is good.
That's where I'm at as well.
Good. Not running a node is bad. Knots and core, pick whichever one. The issue is this divisiveness. That is the issue that I see. Like I can genuinely see someone turn around after this opera turn things happens, doing the exact worst case thing of uploading illicit material and then being, see, like, and I say that in the video. It's like, but that is where the issue is going to come from. Like, I don't think, as far as I understand anyway, and like I've said many times, that I may not understand it all fully, but it doesn't seem like there's anything different from having opera turn. If anything, it's harder to do everything that people are saying. The one thing I didn't really address in the video as well was the whole relaying it between Mempool, and I've seen Krata and Mechanic and tons of comments coming since that, and I was like, oh man, how did I overlook that part? That is like probably the core part. But again, from my understanding is that there's no difference between inscriptions and opera turn. Like you can already do that.
I remember seeing, I think it was in Mechanics node seminar thing that he put up a few weeks ago, where he said that one of the issues that kind of like bad actors have at the minute is storing malware and storing that stuff on their own server. Whereas if they can store malware in like the mempool, then they essentially get free file storage for this stuff, and their hands are kind of like clean of holding that stuff themselves. Does that make sense? That's the way I got it anyway. Bad actors can store things like, CP or malware, viruses, that kind of thing, instead of holding it on their own computer, which would be illegal if they've got like a home server. They can hold it in the mempool for free. And then if they were to like send a virus to somebody, or they could just link it to the mempool rather than link it to their own home computer.
But yeah, this is where the technicalities.
Yeah, I don't fully understand it either.
The way I understand the mempool is like, I have my own mempool. You would have your own mempool running a node, and then they get relayed or gossiped, or however you want to say it. They get propagated. Like there's technical terms for it, like where they share each other's mempool, and then you like include that in your mempool and things like that. I think that's kind of how it works. But from my understanding is there's an X amount of time that things can be held there, and then it just kind of
it gets confirmed or not.
Yeah, but also actually it was just, let me just see what the technician says, because that might help. Like he was just explaining this actually, because I was sort of saying, can't believe I overlooked this. It's such a oversight on my part. But basically he's sort of saying Yeah, so if you do not double spend, but mempool stays quite full for a long time, 2 weeks, your transaction will be forgotten by many mempools, not all. So risk of having it mined is low. In this case, you risk inclusion into a block, but if it doesn't go to a block, your operation was completely free. So basically, this is what people are saying, like Mechanic are saying, it will just basically be free relaying CP around, and it's not actually, you might not ever get mined or anything, but everyone's mempool is going to relay this around.
Right.
But the point that he's sort of making is it stays quite full for a long time, 2 weeks. Your transaction will be forgotten by many mempools, but not all. And also, again, as far as I understand, it sounds like inscriptions do this anyway. So this is already happening within inscriptions. But then I guess the NOTs argument would be, but we filter inscriptions, so they don't actually allow inscriptions for this relaying to happen anyway. But then the cause argument is like, the reason we don't filter is because it's just a losing game. Like as soon as you filter, so this is a
whack-a-mole thing.
Yeah, so this is the thing, like NOTs at the moment filters for inscriptions, but there's so many workarounds. There's like, not endless, that's not the right word, but there's tons of different ways to store data on Bitcoin. It's not just op return and inscriptions, and that's it. You just need to, let's fix that, and then it will be stopped. There's currently like 4 methods at the minute, which is there in the video. And then there's also other ways that they could do it. So even if you fix all of those 4 methods, they'll just find the other thing. And then there's also, they can just use nodes like Libra Relay, which was why Peter Todd set this up in the first place. It's just to prove the point, I think this is years ago, is that you need like 10. If you have 10 Libra Relay nodes, so anyone that's wanting to do this just sets up within their own little community 10, they relay it amongst themselves, and then this can then get found by a miner, and the miner mines it, and it gets in anyway. No, basically, the point is, it doesn't matter what NOTs and Core think. People can do this themselves. And this is their point, is like, so until it's on the consensus level, and like these are the actual rules, you're not allowed to do this. It's a waste of all of the devs' time, because they can put, and people are like, but why don't they just fix that hole in the back fence? It's like, well, you can put all your time, effort, energy, resources, money into fixing that hole, and they'll just create another hole, and then another hole, and another hole. And like, there's an endless, endless is not the right word, because there probably is an end. And I think this is what people's point is for Team Knots. It's like, well, just fix up all the holes, spend all your time fixing the holes. But I even heard a really in-depth podcast with Peter Todd where he was saying, he even suggested a solution to this to Knots, and was like, well, this is, at the moment, this is what we could actually do, which is basically sounded like manual filter, like manually filtering. So you look at each thing, manually decide whether it's a legit transaction or not, and filter. And they're sort of like, yeah, but that's just not viable, it's not realistic. And
so what is what is the point of the change? Like, what was the issue? What are they trying to, what is Core trying to fix?
Yeah, I think, as I've heard some people say as well, it's like, this one change is not
like, what was
the thing.
The problem?
It's just like the straw that broke the camel's back sort of thing. This is not the sole thing. But it's such a, from Core's point of view, it's such a minor change that I don't think they ever expected this kind of reaction. They've obviously spent time discussing it themselves, deciding that it was worth doing. They then say this is worth doing, and then obviously all of this stuff has then come out, like, and it's just escalated a lot, and then people have got really on Team Core, and then there's been Team Knots or Team Core, whatever, and then there's been this just personal attacks, which, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care like what one individual person has done about, because you can do it both ways. Like, you can do it for Luke Dash Jr. or whatever his name is. Like, you can you can do this about anyone. Like, if you just pick person, I've heard people say, oh yeah, James Lopp, I can't listen to him because he's always got a smug look on his face. It's like, what good is that about me deciding whether I want to run Core or not?
I know what you mean, yeah.
You know, so you can go down the personal route, but there's no point in that as far as I'm concerned. Like, I just want to know technically what is the issue here and what are the actual solutions and how can we work on creating the solutions. The best case solution is if everyone just ran their own mining from home and ran their own node. Again, right now, I don't see an issue in knots or core. You could go either way. Like I say, I'm indifferent. I'm not team knots, team core. And then just create proper mining decentralization. And then you can, within your own miner, within your own node, you can choose whatever filters or whatever it is that you want. But the issue is, it doesn't matter what you want. And I think this is what Core is saying. It doesn't matter like what you run. It doesn't matter what you want. It will find its way in, because there's so many different ways for them to do this sort of thing. So I think that's the bottom line, really. And it's something that, to be honest, I didn't really fully understand.
And even if it does find its way in, it probably is still unstoppable. Like, it would be bad PR.
Yeah, it doesn't actually change anything, and I think
it will still continue. Sure.
Yeah, the point is like all of these terrible attacks that everyone's worried about with op return is still possible right now. All of these attacks are totally possible right now from numerous different ways.
I mean, thinking of go on.
Well, yeah, it's just like, well, if it was to happen, like you say, it is. Like, I don't know what the situation. I don't know how it will come with it, but I think that the reason that it hasn't happened is just because two main things, like people's morals and also the fear of prosecution. Like you know, it is pseudonymous. There is a way to track things if you dig hard enough. And when something like that happens, and someone's like, this person or whatever has ruined Bitcoin or whatever it is, you know, because they've made nodes illegal or whatever the case is, then there are ways that you can track that back to someone. I don't know how exactly. Like, in some people are like, oh yeah, but surely just use non KYC Bitcoin. It's like, well, yeah, that doesn't really get around the fact. You know, there's so much technical stuff that I don't know, so I can't really comment on it exactly. But yeah.
Speaking of mining, home mining, I was thinking the other day, I was like, shit. Oh, I probably shouldn't swear actually on YouTube. There we go. But I was thinking, you know, having a home miner where you can, you know, contribute your hash rate, and you might get a few sats, you know, a few hundred sats a day kind of thing. Yeah. Or you can solo mine and you can play the lottery effectively. I was thinking, it's only going to be 2 years, you know, for the next 2 years where that block reward is 3.125. And then that's gone forever. We're never going to have the opportunity again. Why am I not already solo mining at home? Like
I've heard people saying this before, and saying like how
that's never coming back.
Yeah,
we've only got 2 years to get that, and then it halves, and then it halves, and then it halves. Like, why have I not got like a full setup already? Just trying to hit that lottery.
So when I went to Bury St Edmunds at the conference there, I went to a mining chat. It's like quite a small room. There's probably only about 15 people in there, and one guy that's been mining since 2011. And I was sat next to the main technical guy that we know from our meetup as well. So that was really helpful because I could just ask him like little questions here and there. But the bottom line is, in the UK, it doesn't make financial sense to mine. You may as well just buy Bitcoin. That's the bottom line.
That's what I've heard people saying, yeah.
If you've got your own solar panels set up, then this guy from our meetup, he has this, and they've actually now just they put it on. They sell it back to the grid. They said they didn't used to.
Really?
They didn't used to because it made more financial sense to keep the Bitcoin, but now the grid pays more for whatever reason. They've now selling it back to the grid. Although they use Octopus, and for about an hour a week you get free electricity. So they're like, quick, go, turn them on. So Octopus lets you know when that's going to happen.
Really?
So they just turn on all the miners, turn everything on for that hour, and mine Bitcoin then during that. And so it's just free Bitcoin. It's not going to be much, but you know,
that's interesting.
So yeah,
why do they offer free electricity for an hour a week?
Don't know. It's weird. That's just something that Octopus does. So yeah, like and every country, every region will be slightly different. You know,
but they're talking about.
I think the UK is like the second worst energy expenditure in the world or something. So
really,
the guys were saying,
in terms of price.
Yeah, so you can't get any worse in the UK. So if you were somewhere else, then there's a chance that it is economically sensible to mine.
They're contributing to the hash rate. They're getting a few sats, a day, aren't they? They're not solo mining.
One of the miners is a solo miner. I actually bought a Bisax because I just wanted to learn. They're
well done.
160 quid or something, but I was like, I'm just gonna, and I'm not expecting anything from it. It's literally like I can't remember what the odds are. 1 in
170 years, something like that. If you leave it on 24/7. Yeah.
Is that a Bitax or is that for something else?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the hash rate on it?
I don't know. I haven't even done it yet. I've just bought it and was like, I thought it was only last weekend. So,
if you figure it out,
the guy that
figure it out, let me know.
The guy I was speaking to was like, it uses less energy than leaving your TV on standby. So
really?
You're not going to be spending hardly anything on it, and you've got that 1 in 170 years chance of mining a block sort of thing. So, and it would just be, obviously you just do it solo mining. There's no point putting it into a pool because you'll earn like 12p a month or something like, there's like literally hardly anything, but which, to be fair, that is legit sats that you're getting, which you could then, in the future, that could be worth way more. So
non-KYC'd sats.
Yeah, exactly. It might be worth it for some people for sure, but it's if you're going to do it properly, you wouldn't get the Bitax. You'd get like is it Avalon or something?
Yeah,
what's that called? Something like that. Which he did also.
Avalon, yeah.
Kanan, he also had that, and that would be like a little heater as well. So this was his point. This was the thing that was really amazing, actually, is he's created this thing where basically it could effectively just replace everyone's boiler in the UK.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, so the mining is just sort of like this computer, like if you open up a computer, it's just like all, I don't know what it's all called, but like just bits and bobs. But it's basically like long and flat like this, and you just slot it in. And so whenever you need to replace the miner, you just take it out and put the new one in. And so you can replace it every few years as the technology improves or as things change or whatever. But the point is that could like heat up all your water, which then does your central heating. And there's an app where you can control it. You can turn it on and off. The point that he's making is this is how you really make this decentralized, is by using the utility of it.
Yeah.
And the utility of it is heat.
Yeah.
And, in the UK and in tons of countries, they need that. Like you have, for hot water to have a shower, even in the summer, you still use your boiler, you still use hot water, depending, obviously if it's electric, it's different, but like,
it could subsidize your electricity costs, I guess. If you have electric heaters anyway in the winter, let's say it costs, I don't know, a few quid a week
we had
to turn your heater on. If you're earning a few quid a week, or even let's say like 50% of that back in Bitcoin, that could like heavily subsidize your expenditure. That's a great idea. Yeah.
And exactly that point is like, even
but at the same time,
where it gets to like 50 degrees Celsius in the summer, in the winter, it actually gets cold, and because it's all marble and it gets cold for a good 2-3 months. And we actually had an electric heater and just put it like next to us by the TV or whatever, when you're late in the evening. Sometimes just put it in the bedroom to warm that up. That could just be a Bitcoin miner earning you. And we didn't pay for electricity. We just paid a flat fee. So we could have left that on in a little room somewhere, just left it really close so it doesn't heat up the whole house, and left that on all day, every day for, so it's always possible. Although technically, I think it was technically illegal to own Bitcoin in Qatar. So it probably
was it?
Yeah, technically. But,
Is it banned over there? Is it banned in Saudi Arabia?
It's all so grey area, isn't it? Like if you Google it, it will probably say that, but then is it actually? I don't know. Like, has anyone ever got anything happen to them for owning Bitcoin?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's one of those ones where for the citizens it's probably illegal, but for the actual people running the country, they're probably stacking hard.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But yeah, I thought that was really fascinating. And it was like, you can see that's literally in everyone's home. Every business, every home would have mining. And that's how you can really make it way more decentralized. And then you can choose which mining pool that you go in, or whether you solo mine or put it in the pool.
But at the minute, they said it's not worth it, really.
Well, so the other guy, he mines in the pool. So he's got solar panels all over his house. And he's like, yeah, I make money every month from it. And he's in the UK because he just runs it off solar. But I think
solar.
Again, he sort of sets it for times. There's times of the day where electricity is more expensive and less expensive.
Because you've got to, I mean, if you've got a decent solar panel set up, that's going to cost you a few £1,000.
Exactly. So what he said, what he actually did is I think he basically sold some Bitcoin to then buy solar panels, and it was all like tax deductible. Okay. I don't understand all of that sort of side of things, but I was just like, yeah, that sounds really smart and interesting. And then he's then got a whole mining setup, which obviously he'll have to replace his miners at some point, but we'll do it for the next few years, and then that's just accumulating Bitcoin for him. And it's exactly like you say, it's non KYC Bitcoin, which is not. There's no risk of sending it to someone else in like BISC or something, where there can be, like, you've heard stories of issues going on and things like that.
Really? Like what? I've not heard of that.
Well, like, as in, I've heard someone at the meetup was telling me, like, where people meet up in person and one of them sends money, fiat, to one of them, and the other one sends the Bitcoin or something like that. And then I don't know exactly. Well, maybe it's nothing to do with BISC, but I think the point is like the person sending money didn't actually send money or something, and they didn't find out until like weeks after. So that might have been nothing to do with BISC, to be fair. It might have just been the
peer-to-peer risks.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas if you just solo mine it yourself, you just literally mine it. It's coming straight to you, and it's non KYC.
Yeah, I mean, the amount it costs for hardware for mining seems, if you just pool mining, unless you've literally got like free electricity somewhere, it seems that it's going to take years to just get the money back for the hardware. Like if let's say if I had an office job, like I would definitely be like guerrilla mining. I'd have a little miner. I'd have like I'd use the works electricity. I would like have 2 heat miners at my feet, keeping my feet nice and warm. I would have like 2 on the desk, and I'd just like, if anybody asked, nobody at work would know. Like they'd be like, "What's that?" I'd be like, "Oh, it's just
heater.
It's a phone charger. It's a heater." Exactly.
Yeah. Well, he had this was really cool. He had like a mug warmer. So like, you cup of coffee, you stick that on a little warmer like that, and that keeps your coffee warm. And
it's a Bitcoin miner.
Yeah, so this guy is like really into it. I can't remember his name, but he's really, really into it. He's creating some amazing stuff. And it's like, you can see how this is going to become, how it really will be. Imagine that. You just replace your boiler. You don't need a boiler anymore. You just have a Bitcoin miner.
Yeah, so it would be purely electricity, though. The gas and that kind of thing would be... You'd be able to do it on gas, would you?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That was the bit I wasn't quite sure, because he was saying it can like heat up your water. So I don't know. Like, if you've got like a hot water tank, we've got a big tank of hot water upstairs. So I don't know how that would work. Like, how is that thing going to heat up the water, or I don't know. But yeah, you're right. Like, it would be. It does sound like
electric only, wouldn't it?
Takes gas away. Yeah.
Well, not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah,
we'll see. But yeah,
rabbit holes to everything, though, isn't
I definitely want to look into node and mining at home. Once you've set it up, I'll just get you to do it for me.
Yeah, I just think it's more like the learning as well that you get from it, and then like that's the self-sovereignty, really. I think is like, once if you're doing all of that, if you hold custody it yourself, have a node, mine yourself, then you're like totally self-sovereign, and it doesn't matter what anything else happens, really. As long as someone else is doing that, you'll always be able to to use it, kind of thing. So
indeed. Should we crack on with the book?
Yeah.
We're on chapter 6 of the Bitcoin Standard, almost halfway through. Not doing too bad. This is going to be about 30 odd episodes, I think.
What page are we on now?
In my book, we're on
chapter 6, or we've done one on chapter 6.
We did one. We're on business cycles and financial crises. Shall I read?
Yeah.
Right then. So, whereas in a free market capital... hang on, I've messed that up already. Whereas in a free market for capital, the supply of loanable funds is determined by the market participants who decide to lend based on the interest rate. In an economy with a central bank and fractional reserve banking, the supply of loanable funds is directed by a committee of economists under the influence of politicians, bankers, TV pundits, and sometimes, most spectacularly, military generals. Any passing familiarity with economics will make the dangers of price controls clear and discernible. Should a government decide to set the price of apples and prevent it from moving, the outcome will be either a shortage or a surplus and large losses to society overall from overproduction or underproduction. In the capital market, something similar happens, but the effects are far more devastating as they affect every sector of the economy, because capital is involved in the production of every economic good. It is first important to understand the distinction between loanable funds and actual capital goods. In a free market economy with sound money, savers have to defer consumption in order to save. Money that is deposited in a bank as savings is money taken away from consumption by people who are delaying the gratification that consumption could give them in order to gain more gratification in the future. The exact amount of savings becomes the exact amount of loanable funds available for producers to borrow. The availability of capital goods is inextricably linked to the reduction of consumption. Actual physical resources, labor, land, and capital goods will move from being employed in the provision of final consumption goods to the production of capital goods. The marginal worker is directed away from car sales and toward a job in the car factory. The proverbial corn seed will go into the ground instead of being eaten. This is just going into like time preference that he was speaking of in the last chapter, isn't it?
Yeah.
But basically saying this fractional reserve system we've got at the minute, because it's unsound, money saved in the bank, you might have 10% in there, but they can just create more credit on top of that out of thin air.
Exactly.
Whereas in a sound money, you can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
That's it. There we go. Scarcity is the fundamental starting point of all economics, and its most important implication is the notion that everything has an opportunity cost. In the capital market, the opportunity cost of capital is foregone consumption, and the opportunity cost of consumption is foregone capital investment. The interest rate is the price that regulates this relationship. As people demand more investments, the interest rate rises, incentivizing more savers to set aside more of their money for savings. As the interest rate drops, it incentivizes investors to engage in more investments and to invest in more technologically advanced methods of production with a longer time horizon. A lower interest rate then allows for the engagement of methods of production that are longer and more productive. Society moves from fishing with rods to fishing with oil-powered large boats. As an economy advances and becomes increasingly sophisticated, the connection between physical capital and the loanable funds market does not change in reality, but it does get obfuscated in the minds of people. A modern economy with a central bank is built on ignoring this fundamental trade-off and assuming that banks can finance investment with new money without consumers having to forego consumption. The link between savings and loanable funds is severed to the point where it is not even taught in the economic textbooks anymore, let alone the disastrous consequences of ignoring it. As the central bank manages the money supply and interest rate, there will inevitably be a discrepancy between savings and loanable funds. Central banks are generally trying to spur economic growth and investment and to increase consumption, so they tend to increase the money supply and lower the interest rate, resulting in a larger quantity of loanable funds than savings. At these artificially low interest rates, businesses take on more debt to start projects than savers put aside to finance these investments. In other words, the value of consumption deferred is less than the value of capital borrowed. Without enough consumption deferred, there will not be enough capital, land, and labor resources diverted away from consumption goods toward higher order capital goods at the earliest stages of production. There is no free lunch after all, and if consumers save less, there will have to be less capital available for investors. Creating new pieces of paper and digital entries to paper over the deficiency in savings does not magically increase society's physical capital stock. It only devalues the existing money supply and distorts prices. It's an important line. This shortage of capital is not immediately apparent because banks and the central bank can issue enough money for the borrowers. That is, after all, the main perk of using unsound money. In an economy with sound money, such manipulation of the price of capital would be impossible. As soon as the interest rate is set artificially low, the shortage in savings at banks is reflected in reduced capital available for borrowers, leading to a rise in the interest rate, which reduces demand for loans and raises the supply of savings until the two match. Unsound money makes such manipulation possible, but only for a short while, of course, as reality cannot be deceived forever. The artificially low interest rates and the excess printed money deceive the producers into engaging in a production process requiring more capital resources than is actually available. The excess money, backed by no actual deferred consumption, initially makes more producers borrow, operating under the delusion that the money will allow them to buy all the capital goods necessary for their production process. As more and more producers are bidding for fewer capital goods and resources than they expect there to be, the natural outcome is a rise in the price of the capital goods during the production process. This is the point at which the manipulation is exposed, leading to the simultaneous collapse of several capital investments, which suddenly become unprofitable at the new capital good prices. These projects are what Mises termed malinvestments. Investments that would not have been undertaken without the distortions in the capital market and whose completion is not possible once the misallocations are exposed. 2008 subprime mortgage scandal there. The central bank's intervention in the capital market allows for more projects to be undertaken because of the distortion of prices that causes investors to miscalculate. But the central bank's intervention cannot increase the amount of actual capital available, so these extra projects are not completed and become an unnecessary waste of capital. The suspension of these projects at the same time causes a rise in unemployment across the economy. This economy-wide simultaneous failure of overextended businesses is what is referred to as a recession. Only with an understanding of the capital structure and how interest rate manipulation destroys the incentive for capital accumulation can one understand the causes of recessions and the swings of the business cycle. The business cycle is the natural result of the manipulation of the interest rate distorting the market for capital by making investors imagine they can attain more capital than is available with the unsound money they have been given by the banks. Contrary to the Keynesian animist mythology, business cycles are not mystic phenomena caused by flagging, quote, animal spirits, whose cause is to be ignored as central bankers seek to try to engineer recovery. Economic logic clearly shows how recessions are the inevitable outcome of interest rate manipulation, in the same way shortages are the inevitable outcome of price ceilings. An analogy can be borrowed from Mises's work and embellished to illustrate the point. Imagine the capital stock of a society as building bricks and the central bank as a contractor responsible for constructing them into houses. Each house requires 10,000 bricks to construct, and the developer is looking for a contractor who will be able to build 100 houses. requiring a total of 1 million. But a Keynesian contractor eager to win the contract realizes his chances of winning the contract will be enhanced if he can submit a tender promising to build 120 of the same house while only requiring 800,000 bricks. This is the equivalent of the interest rate manipulation. It reduces the supply of capital while increasing the demand for it. In reality, the 120 houses will require 1.2 million bricks, but there are only 800,000 available. The 800,000 bricks are sufficient to begin the construction of the 120 houses, but they are not sufficient to complete them. As the construction begins, the developer is very happy to see 20% more houses for 80% of the cost, thanks to the wonders of Keynesian engineering, which leads him to spend the 20% of the cost he saved on buying himself a new yacht. But the ruse cannot last, as it will eventually become apparent that the houses cannot be completed and the construction must come to a halt. Not only has the contractor failed to deliver 120 houses, he will have failed to deliver any houses whatsoever, and instead he's left the developer with 120 half houses, effectively useless piles of bricks with no roofs. The contractor's ruse reduced the capital spent by the developer and resulted in the construction of fewer houses than would have been possible with accurate price signals. The developer would have had 100 houses if he went with an honest contractor. By going with a Keynesian contractor who distorts the numbers, the developer continues to waste his capital for as long as the capital is being allocated on a plan with no basis in reality. If the contractor realizes the mistake early on, the capital wasted on starting 120 houses might be very little, and a new contractor will be able to take the remaining bricks and use them to produce 90 houses. If the developer remains ignorant of the reality until the capital runs out, he will only have 120 finished homes that are worthless, as nobody will pay to live in a roofless house. When the central bank manipulates the interest rate lower than the market clearing price by directing banks to create more money by lending, they are at once reducing the amount of savings available in society and increasing the quantity demanded by borrowers, while also directing the borrowed capital toward projects which cannot be completed. Hence, the more unsound the form of money and the easier it is for central banks to manipulate interest rates, the more severe the business cycles are. Monetary history testifies on how much more severe business cycles and recessions are when the money supply is manipulated than when it isn't. Just butting in here, Mike, is this saying then in a free market that Jeff Booth talks about, you'd still have interest rates, but they would be dictated by the market rather than a central, Federal Reserve governing body, just by purely the amount of new projects and new investments that people want. For example, if loads of people want to invest in creative new projects, they're going to need more money in the bank. So the interest rates are going to rise to incentivize people to put it in the bank. So there'll be more money for businesses to create with. Am I right in thinking that? What do you think?
So interest rates on people taking out a loan?
Yeah, like it says, hence the more unsound the form of money and the easier it is for central banks to manipulate in interest rates, the more severe the business cycles are. Monetary history testifies to how much more severe business cycles and recessions are when the money supply is manipulated than when it isn't. So in a free market, let's say on a Bitcoin standard, or even in a free market itself, would the interest rates just set themselves, do you think? Or because there would be no central body dictating interest rates, would there?
Yeah, I think that's the core point, is that the
market would decide it itself.
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't really considered that side actually. But yeah, there would be no central, there'd be no Federal Reserve lowering the basis points by 25 points or whatever. That just wouldn't happen. They wouldn't exist. There would be no need for the Federal Reserve. But yeah, I think it would just be on a much more case by case basis. I think the easiest way to think of it is just on like me and you borrowing and lending. because that is what the free market is. Apart from obviously it could be a bank or whatever, but
even like they used to have things called free banks, which was before the Federal Reserve. Like in like old Western films, you see like a town with like a bank and it had like a vault and whatnot.
Yeah,
like there was no central bank governing those before the Fed. There was just you would go and deposit your coins in the bank, and that's what the bank had. So maybe it would be more of a thing like that, where a bank would be a store of value for you, and if you had a business idea and you needed money, you'd go to the bank and you'd say, right, I want to borrow 10,000 whatever units, £10,000, still living in fiat land, obviously, but
sats.
I want to borrow 10,000 sats, whatever, because I've got this business idea. And they would have those 10,000 sats there, because somebody had given this bank, but it wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, what would that look like in the future? Maybe you would have like non-profit organized, or like just institutions or whatever that would hold people's sats and you might get, and this is typically what interest was, I guess. You would hold your money in the bank, they would give you interest, and that interest would come from the investments that the bank made from these businessmen and entrepreneurs and stuff. And it would be up to the bank to pick wisely who they offer a loan to. Yep. Whereas now in this fiat world, it's basically like, oh, you can just offer crap loans, like in The Big Short, you just give mortgages to whoever, it doesn't really matter. And then when they make a mistake, I will just bail them out. This is the issue with central banking. But in a sound money system, I guess you have to be a lot more responsible and a lot more, in the know of who you actually loan money to, because there will be repercussions, because you can't just print more Bitcoin.
Exactly. That is exactly it. So if someone wanted to borrow some Bitcoin from you, what would make you want to lend anyone to Bitcoin? Let's say you've reached your road to one Bitcoin. We're in 30 years in the future. Bitcoin's worth £100 million. Yeah. And someone wants to borrow.
I'd say if it was a worthy cause, if it was a good cause, yeah.
What decides whether it's a worthy cause or a good cause to you?
I don't know. It'd just be personal, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, would you just some random person in the streets like, hey, TC, I know you got one Bitcoin. Give me some of your Bitcoin. Are you just going to do that?
If he approached me and said that with wielding a knife, then I'd probably be like. I mean, I don't know. This is you delve into interest here, and that whole thing about interest. Is it moral to charge interest on loans at all? I've heard in some countries, I think maybe in some religions and some countries, they don't charge interest or a percentage, like compound interest. They'll charge a fee, and they get around it that way.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm still trying to get my head around that whole thing. Is it moral to charge interest on loans?
Obviously, it depends. If it's family and relatives, then you probably wouldn't. But yeah, that's the point, though. Is that that's what the realization just came to? Is that people would, in a sound money system, people are not going to be lending things out willy nilly, and equally, people are not going to be taking loans willy nilly. So today, it makes total sense for people to try and borrow as much money as possible, even if they haven't got a sound business model. That's why there's so many zombie companies today, which are just getting through because they can keep borrowing cheap money, which gets devalued over time, and so they can pay it back easier and then borrow more cheap money in the future and do it again. That's the only reason that they're doing anyway. Whereas in the sound monetary system, zombie companies just wouldn't exist, which means that it allows more space for things that create value, and which what Jeff Booth always goes on about is that only things with value would exist, and that would then create more value, and it would make more people be like, oh, I see that person creating value, I think I can do that better than them for cheaper, so I'm going to go and compete with them. And then that competition compounds, and it's mind-boggling. When you understand that bit, it's this solves everything. He's like, oh yeah, fix the money, fix the world.
While most people imagine that socialist societies are a thing of the past and that market systems rule capitalist economies, the reality is that a capitalist system cannot function without a free market in capital, where the price of capital emerges through the interaction of supply and demand, and the decisions of capitalists are driven by accurate price signals. The central bank's meddling in the capital market is the root of all recessions and all the crises which most politicians, journalists, academics, and leftist activists like to blame on capitalism. Completely agree with that point there. It's the money is the foundational issue. Only through the central planning of the money supply can the price mechanism of the capital markets be corrupted to cause wide disruptions in the economy. Whenever a government has started on the path of inflating the money supply, there is no escaping the negative consequences. If the central bank stops the inflation, interest rates rise and a recession follows, as many of the projects that were started are exposed as unprofitable and have to be abandoned, exposing the misallocation of resources and capital that took place. If the central bank were to continue its inflationary process indefinitely, it would just increase the scale of misallocations in the economy, wasting even more capital and making the inevitable recession even more painful. There is no escape from paying a hefty bill for the supposed free lunch that Keynesian cranks foisted upon us. Quote by Friedrich Hayek, "We now have a tiger by the tail. How long can this inflation continue? If the tiger of inflation is freed, he will eat us up. Yet if he runs faster and faster while we desperately hold on, we are still finished. I'm glad I won't be here to see the final outcome." We'll end there, shall we?
Glad I won't be here to see the final outcome. What does he think the final outcome is going to be?
Well, chaos and just, I don't know.
Is Hayek dead? I don't actually know.
I
know he was really old.
I think he is now, but yeah, he died in 92.
92. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, yeah, so he's not going to see it. Yeah, he was right about that.
I mean, we'll close on this one, but when do you think? I mean, it's hard to say, but what do you think it will look like? Or I mean, I don't know if there's going to be a big collapse all at once, or I don't know if there's going to be like a steady transition from one thing to the next. Do you know what I mean? Like a gradual kind of controlled demolition of, the fiat system, at the same time building up more of a sound money system underneath.
Well, I think Jeff Booth often says this, though, is like the reality will exist for two different people. If you're living on a Bitcoin standard, everything will just keep getting cheaper and your life will get easier. If you're living on a fiat standard, the exact opposite will happen.
Yeah.
And so I think it almost is as simple as you either are on Bitcoin or you're not. And it will be very obvious within over that patch of time.
Yeah.
Who's who. But yeah, I do think it's going to be horrendous. I'm not going to lie. I just can't see any other possible way. I think it'll be an absolutely, I've sort of explained about like the whole debt spiral thing before. It will be horrendous, which is what happened in 2008. But I think it's going to be more than just housing this time. It's going to be everything.
Do you think Western countries will see hyperinflation?
Yeah. I don't see how they cannot. Unless there is this whole changing to a new monetary system or something, that if they stay using US dollars and the current monetary system, there is no other outcome I can see, because the only other option is what we spoke about before, as well as that the Triffin dilemma, like austerity. So where they stop printing, and if they do that, it's terrible.
Well, that's what it says here. It says if we free it, he'll eat us up. Like, you could stop, but you'll get eaten up.
Exactly, and it would be horrendous.
And no politician is going to want to do that, because everybody would be.
It would just be chaos. It'd be riots, it'd be looting.
Yeah,
because people would just be trying to feed themselves.
People will be begging them to print cash if that happens.
Exactly.
They'd be like, okay, I know the money, but please just print more money.
Just give us some money,
bail us out. Bail us out.
Give us some money. Like the same as at COVID time, it's that. Yeah. Like, we've already seen the prequel.
Yeah, they'll be like, I'll take any injection. I'll take any CBDC. Exactly. I just need to eat.
Already seen it. And it would just be that on mass. And so the only other thing that they can do is print. And the only thing that can happen if they do mass printing, which is what they'll need, because probably what will happen is they'll be like, let's just give it a little bit. And they'll be like, that didn't do anything. Give it a little bit more. That hasn't done anything. Like, fuck it. Just send all the money, all the money. So it's just going to be, that's the only way out. That is the only thing. And then you just need to look in any country that's seen hyperinflation in recent times and see the turmoil that's happened in those countries. Just do a quick Google search, hyperinflation, country, whatever. Like, look at Lebanon, Venezuela.
Yeah.
There's tons and tons of different places, and you can see what happens. And that'll be the reality. But obviously if they transition to something else, then who knows? That'll be messy and chaotic in itself. Would they go back to gold somehow? Like I've mentioned before, it's like it would need to be like 30x or something.
Yeah,
gold would overnight, and then that just massively benefits anyone that's holding gold and struggles for anyone else that's not. Will it be a hybrid of gold and Bitcoin? Will it be there can't really be much else. Like if you think about it logically, like what else are they going to back the money to? So is it just going to go straight to a Bitcoin standard? Like you just don't know. But yeah, I think it's going to be CBDCs, this turmoil that everyone's in. They need them. And then once you're on the CBDCs and you get in the global, what do they call it? Like the money, global
UBI.
Yeah. So universal basic income. Like once that is the stuff that I can't see how it's not going to happen. Really.
Yeah. Literally, that's the stuff that nightmares are made of. It's like some Blade Runner 1984.
But you live on Bitcoin and everything during that same time, your life's getting easier, everything's getting cheaper. You can afford more and more. And I think it is almost as simple as that. I think gold can help during this time for sure, because I think they're not just going to completely abandon gold. Countries are stockpiling that hard at the minute.
Yeah.
But I mean, the US, I've seen Sailor say this before, probably a smart move from the US is just sell all their gold and buy Bitcoin. What they would be doing is they would just be screwing China, Russia, all these countries that are stockpiling gold. They'd be screwing them over massively. And also they're backing the fastest horse, which is then going to...
That would be the best move. That could be the best move they could ever make. Like to get them from imminent collapse era to actually... That would be like, instead of going from like imminent collapse, like massive debt, it would be like, actually, we've just finessed the whole system there.
Exactly. It's like just getting the royal flush on the river, on the last card. You've got the ace king, and then on the last card, the 10 comes.
But I mean, is there even enough Bitcoin to go around for them to even make a substantial... I mean, how much are they going to potentially... But if America made that move, then that would it. The supply shock would just be too insane.
So there's even another way that they can do this.
They could mine, again, I guess.
I would have to find this out properly before just saying it, but like it's basically, the long and short of it is they've got X amount of gold on their reserves at the minute, which is worth X amount, but at the moment it's on their balance sheet, it's only worth like $35 an ounce of gold. So it's like, it's something like 8 billion or something. When they actually come to sell it though, for its current price, it's worth $1 trillion, something like that. But on the balance sheet at the minute, it only says like 8 billion, like nowhere near the right amount. But so what they could literally do is just sort of sell their gold and then buy it back and not actually do anything with it, and then just print trillions of dollars sort of thing for themselves, and then use that to help pay off the debt. This is something that is likely to happen, in my opinion. But what would be even better for them is if gold was repriced higher, or was even higher than what it is now, and then they do that exact move. So they're not actually selling any gold; they're just literally printing money out of thin air. That's literally what they're doing.
Yeah,
they're selling it and buying it back at the same time.
Yeah, it's an accounting trick.
Exactly, and like that's why I think gold could be good during this patch of time. So that they'll probably do that, but then what would be even better is if they do that trick and then actually sell it, like, you know, and then actually buy Bitcoin with it. That would be, they'd just be printing, like, you know, they could probably get tens of trillions in that one move by doing that, and own a ton of Bitcoin sort of thing. So, but yeah, no one knows. It's all speculation. No one knows what's actually going to happen, how it's going to play out. It's going to be messy. I think that's it'll
be messy line. Either way.
And Hayek's right. He's glad that he's not around to see it.
Yeah.
Although I better be gutted he didn't see Bitcoin.
Yeah. That's wonder when it'll be.
It gives hope, doesn't it?
Should we call it a day there?
Yeah.
Right then. We'll call it a day. See you next time, Mike.
See ya.
Peace.
Bye.